Welcome to CommercialDrones.fm, the podcast that explores the commercial drone industry, the people who power it, and the concepts that drive it. I'm your host, Ian Smith. Hey everybody, and welcome to CommercialDrones.fm, a podcast for the commercial drone industry. And today I'm sitting here in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Commercial UAV Expo, and I'm sitting with Art Pregler, who is the Director of C&E, Construction and Engineering, Mobility Systems at AT&T. So welcome to the show, Art. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Nice being here.
Yeah, likewise. So first of all, maybe we can tell some people, what your background is, and maybe how you kind of got into drones, as it were, and why we're sitting here at a drone conference and talking about drones.
Sure. Well, my personal background started with the Air Force back in 1983 as a weapons controller, and then got into flight tests, then became a mission control specialist and air traffic controller. I got into drones in 1985. And we were shooting down drones, essentially, testing new advanced weapon systems and using drones as targets. So we would take full-size fighter aircraft and then convert them into drones and shoot them down. So from there, eventually I got into some other surveillance drone programs, supporting those. And then eventually it came to AT&T.
And so, part on your background, it said something about Star Wars. What was this? What was the Star Wars program?
Yeah, that was back in the 80s. That was the Strategic Defense Initiative program. That was a big program to establish a presence in space and be able to provide some combat operations and space-based weapon systems and missile systems, that sort of thing.
So it must have been inspired by the films, then, the name, or was it?
Yes. Because it came. Yes, the program came out around the same time as the Star Wars movies, and so it just got branded that by media.
Hey, that's cool. You can say you worked on Star Wars, so everybody likes that. That's awesome. So you have a presentation, and you're on a panel here at the UAV Expo. Your presentation is called Improving Cell Tower Inspection Through the Use of UAVs. So AT&T is a do you refer to yourself as a communications company, or is it I'm losing the word.
Sure, it's an everything company. We're becoming a software company. So we're kind of converting from the old telecommunications hardware-centric model to more of a virtual function network, basically software company.
Okay, cool. So yeah, maybe you can tell us about your presentation talks. Of course, there's cell tower inspection involved in there, and I know that's something that's the media talks about cell tower inspection a lot. And how that's a use case for drones. But are you guys, currently using drones specifically for cell tower inspection?
Yes, we started our program in an exploratory phase about a year ago. We did a lot of pilots around the country and checking out the viability of drones against various use cases and in various locations with various vendors. And we went operational the end of September, so it's only been a short time that we've
Congrats.
Been out of the pilot phase. Yes,
that's awesome. And so why does a cell tower? First of all, maybe we can start at the beginning. Why does a cell tower need to be inspected in the first place?
Sure. So we have 65,000 cell sites around the country, and we are constantly modifying those, adding technology, and performing maintenance. There's a lot of activity at these cell towers on a daily basis. There are 15,000 tower technicians out there that are climbing these towers, either installing radios or antennas, or upgrading, adding capacity. There's a lot of reasons for them to be on there on a basically daily basis.
And so what kind of, so basically whenever you want to be able to essentially substitute not necessarily substitute, but hopefully keep some feet on the ground, I would imagine is one of the cases. and also just get like a closer up view so you can, what is it? Does it increase efficiency? Are you guys saving money that way? Maybe there's some insurance implications too by not having someone climbing up on the tower. There would be some savings in that regard, monetary.
Yeah, one of the reasons we got into drones at AT&T was from the safety aspect of it. So again, we have a lot of tower technicians climbing our towers on a daily basis. So we looked at using drones to augment the work that they're performing. So the drone can fly the tower and give the tower technician eyes on what's going on up there before the technician gets up there. So they know what they're getting into. They know the condition of the tower. From a safety perspective, they also know what equipment and tools to bring with them when they climb the tower.
As opposed to bringing like everything with them and then going in basically blind.
Right, or taking everything and missing the one thing that they really needed, then having to come back down. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So the method in which you guys do this, so are you using any photogrammetry for this? Because as I'm aware, so I work at a company that really specializes in photogrammetry. It's really hard to get a really nice like 3D model or point cloud of a cell tower because the infrastructure itself is so thin and there's all that lattice work that photography and photogrammetry itself can really be difficult to create that point cloud that you guys might need for inspection. But it sounds like actually, well, yeah, do you use any photogrammetry, or is it mainly just like still photos and really close up like videos and things like that?
Well, it depends on the use case. So a lot of use cases it's video and photos, but we also have use cases for photogrammetry and LiDAR, and we're starting to get into artificial intelligence now. So, for example, we're using the live video aspect of the drones, combining that with facial recognition and machine learning, so that instead of having a live video, sending the images back to someone at a computer, an operations manager, an RF engineer, looking to see what's going on and making decisions based on that information, we're trying to get the drones to a point where they can make those decisions themselves based on what the drone sees. The drone will recognize an anomaly, a quality defect. The drone can issue a trouble ticket. So from that aspect, photogrammetry is one of the inputs that we're using.
Wow, that's great. Okay. Really cool. So going back a little bit more, so you transitioned, looking at your career, you transitioned from more of a government type of role or type of roles into kind of an enterprise role, well, really an enterprise role now. So what was your strategy with this, I guess, is what I have written down, but I don't know if it's really a strategy, but what specifically, why did you get involved more with commercial aspects of drones rather than more of like the military usage?
Well, I did both. And so I did the military usage, and I got in that space because working in the military, working in government, you can get a lot of responsibility at a very young age that you wouldn't necessarily get in the commercial or enterprise side. And so I used that to get a firm foundation. And then when I moved over to the commercial side, I was just that much ahead so that I could manage very large programs without having to work many years to get to that point.
Oh, interesting. So that is a nice strategy. Cool. So, so you said, how many cell towers were there again? There's like
65,000. Those are cell sites. So some are towers, some are rooftops, they're various structures.
Okay, I gotcha. And so it's not always a cell tower really that a drone might be useful for. It could just be on top of a roof. Okay.
Yeah, so, we're more recently using them in stadiums to measure the RF performance of the installed distributed antenna system. So we have antennas throughout. If you think of a football stadium, there are antennas, hundreds of antennas in that venue to provide coverage to all of the seats. And so in that case, we'll fly a drone. Let me take a step back. We before the drones, we would have people carrying backpacks, walking all the stands, the bleachers throughout the stadium, so that they could understand what the performance of the network is at every individual seat in the stadium.
Wow, and map it out or something.
Map it out, right. So we'd look at the upload speeds, the download speeds, the latency, and yes, map that out. That would take, depending on the size of the stadium, it could take a week to perform that analysis. And so now we're bringing in drones and having the drone fly at very low altitude over the seats, and it's much more efficient. We can what would take a week to do with a drone, we could do in a matter of hours with a drone.
So in these stadiums, then, who owns the antennas? I guess, like, are these only
depends. Sometimes they're AT&T owned. Sometimes the venue itself has a third party service provider that manages it and for them. So
if I had a T-Mobile phone or something, am I still using AT&T owned antennas that are being kind of leased to T-Mobile customers, or they're like, does each company have their own antennas in the stadium?
The solutions vary depending on the venue.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, that's really interesting. So yeah, I think I saw something in the news about that, about the Dallas Cowboys stadium. That must have taken quite a while by foot.
Yes, that's a big one. Yes. Yeah. So in that case, we have the software that we have on the drone. We call it Echo Mobile. So it's an AT&T proprietary software solution for measuring the RF performance, and then that data we feed into. It's called GeoLink. It's another AT&T proprietary system, and then that can provide heat maps, so you can see, red, yellow, green. You can get a feel for the coverage and the speed and how well the network is performing, just visually over the entire stadium.
And what do you do if you identify like a dead zone or something? Do you just install another antenna, or reconfigure them or something?
All the above, yeah. Okay. We make adjustments to the network to compensate for it.
Okay, and the goal of this is just to ensure that you have good coverage for your millions of customers in the United States and beyond.
Correct.
Okay, cool. That's really interesting. That's another use case of drones. I know there's other ways people are using drones in stadiums, like inspecting the huge lights that light them up. Because how else do you get someone up there? And lots of stuff that's not really even talked about or widespread yet. Okay, so that actually, your guys are putting some specific sensors, your own custom sensors, really on the drone, so it can detect the cell signals and stuff.
Right. So we have different solutions. So I mentioned the Echo Mobile. That we have that for large venues, for stadiums, that type of venue. For our cell towers, we have a different solution where we have an antenna analyzer on the drone, and we have antennas on the drone as well, and we'll go out and we'll measure the coverage area, so we can map out the lobe patterns from the cell tower as it emits, and then we can also use the drone for interference hunting. So if we see a source of interference affecting the cell site, but it's very difficult to determine where that source is originating. So we can fly a drone in the area back and forth until we pinpoint where the source of that interference is coming.
Never heard of that one before. That's really cool. Okay. Wow. So you're essentially just being able to cover so much more area and just make it so much more efficient. So you mentioned some time savings figures in the stadium. I think you said it could take about a week or something, depending on the size of the stadium. With a drone, you've reduced that to how short? Can
about 4 hours on
4 hours
on average.
Okay, that's many hundreds of percentages quicker. That's very impressive. Are there any monetary or time savings figures, or any general rules of thumb that you can say that you do with using drones on various AT&T projects?
Yeah, well, in the scenario I just mentioned, you can calculate the labor hours in terms of a crew of people walking in that stadium versus the drones. You can see the cost savings there. Yeah, our goal initially with our program is basically to break even. So we're not looking at cost savings in that regard, because we know that the drones will become a much more effective model over time. We've had decades to perfect what we do with our tower technicians and the models that we use now, and so we've pretty much run a lot of efficiencies into that model to get us where we are today. So recognizing that the drones are new, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in addition to just establishing the drones, but to create additional efficiencies as the drone program matures. So we're starting with the goal of break even compared to how we're doing it now with the tower technicians, with a very refined model, and then matching that right out of the gate, and then further refine the drone model over time.
Quick interruption to remind you that I have a Patreon account for the podcast. Patreon is a great service that allows you to support the podcast if you want to. With Patreon, you can choose to donate as little as $1 a month, which comes out to $12 a year. That goes towards my hosting, website, travel, and promo costs for the show. You can also cancel this at any time without any penalty. It's a small way that you can make a huge difference to ensure the longevity of the show. One more reason to do this, however, is because you also get rewards out of it. The first reward is a private Slack or Facebook group that I'll create, and you'll get an invitation to it, but it's for supporters only. So we'll use this group as a place where we can talk about the drone industry, solve problems, ask questions, and generally level up our commercial drone use and knowledge together. So thanks again for listening, and please go check out patreon.com/dronespodcast to see the rewards you can earn for becoming a Commercial Drones FM supporter. That's patreon.com/dronespodcast. Trust me, those rewards are really cool. So thanks again for listening. Let's get back to it. Cool. So I think before we started recording, we were talking a little bit, and you mentioned, so cell tower inspection, though, there's other components to it. It's not just time and money. It's really safety reasons. And I think you mentioned it could be a very dangerous job.
Yeah. So yes, OSHA tracks that sort of thing, and there are some pretty high risk factors involved in working at that elevated environment, and so drones definitely have the potential to minimize risk and make it a safer environment for the tower technicians. Other uses in terms of inspecting bird surveys. I don't know if you've heard about that, but on our cell towers, we're not allowed to do construction if there's an endangered bird nesting on the cell towers, and that's a very common scenario where with birds during certain times of the year.
They'll just go ahead and make a nest up in the tower.
Yes, that they make nests in the towers. And so we can't perform construction activities if there's a bird nesting. Mm-hmm. Well, it's hard to know whether there's a bird nesting. So the traditional model was to hire a biologist to sit there for over a matter of days with binoculars, looking to see if birds are coming and going from the nest.
Wow.
But now with a drone, we can know in a matter of minutes whether there's an active nesting going on. Now, in that scenario, we have to fly the drone in a very specific pattern in a non-threatening way,
yes,
so that we don't disturb the bird if the one happens to be there, and make sure that the bird is not inconvenienced, I guess, from the drone being there.
Yeah, like basically just not disturb, we were never here, that kind of thing. Okay, cool. So are you able to share any type of what kind of, you guys have done a lot of research on this. I mean, you just started in September. Are you able to share what kind of hardware you guys are using for this? Like what type of drones maybe that you find that you guys have found that are pretty effective at this activity?
So our model is completely outsourced. So we have vendor crews available to support all 50 states.
Okay.
So
you don't do any internal drone operations?
We do not do internal drone operations.
Cool.
So we established the standards and the criteria, the deliverables. So we say we want the data in a certain format. We specify it at that level, and then we leave it up to our vendors to determine what type of hardware it takes to produce those deliverables.
Yeah. So this has been now completely debunked. So there was questions. I think a lot of drone service providers, there's plenty of them at the UAV Expo here. They buy a drone and they start a business with it and they want to provide services. But I think I know some of them are apprehensive. This is like the third time I'm mentioning this now on the podcast of the series that we're doing today at the UAV Expo. But it's been officially debunked now that poor drone service providers are going to be out of a job, but that is not the case. I mean, if you're a compliant drone service provider, you follow all the rules and regulations and have good equipment and do consistent results, then you do have chances to work with large enterprise companies and be contracted to do work for them with your drones.
Maybe.
Not necessarily AT&T and everyone, but but depending on who you are and what you're working with, basically the technology is not getting so easy that all companies are just going to do it completely themselves. There's a variety of reasons for not wanting to do it, yourself all the time, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So it's good to hear that perspective. So you guys are 100% outsourced, and then you care about the data quality, how it gets it, safely, et cetera, and then being able to be provided it in a timely manner, I would imagine, and then you guys are happy because people are staying on the ground, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay, very cool, very interesting to learn that. That's awesome. So from an enterprise perspective, actually, you're attending this show, of course you're speaking, you're on a panel, you're here more of from an end user perspective, or are you kind of checking out, the latest stuff that's available and everything? I mean, even though you guys aren't using drones yourselves, you're here. So from what perspective do you feel you are in attendance to this show as?
So I am interested in how far we can take drones. I know what drones can do now. I want to know what drones can do in the future. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking to see what's available, where that the technology is going, and this is a good venue for that. So we can see if we can develop additional use cases or position ourselves so that at some point in the future we see a path to a new use case with drones. Interesting.
Cool. So I think you mentioned you guys do some other stuff too, maybe not just sell stuff and in the stadiums. Do you do any other operations for drones for any of your assets or anything?
So we're looking with cell towers initially because of the beyond line of sight rules. So we have to be within visual sight. So that's very easy to do at a cell tower. Once those rules evolve, we'll be looking at drones over our extended networks, our fiber networks, our air gig networks. I don't know if you're familiar with that technology.
Air gig?
Air gig.
Is that like 5G kind of stuff, or are we talking something different?
It's using power lines to transmit broadband. So,
cool.
And it's not the actual power lines themselves. It's the area around the power lines.
Okay, interesting. And so, I'm probably not asking the right person, but, well, obviously, so yeah, I'm not asking you to comment on this, but Verizon recently announced that they were going to be having drone data plans that they were going to be offering. Are you able to share if AT&T might one day be offering? I mean, okay, like, let's be honest. I could go buy a SIM card right now, and if I could stick it in a drone, it would still work, right? So, but do you have any plans maybe for like a specific like drone data plan? Like, I don't know if that was a marketing move by them to try to get some extra press or whatever, but any thoughts on that, making internet connected drones while they're flying around? I mean, they'd have really good reception right next to that tower.
Right. So right now we're analyzing our network to make our position our network to become a backbone for a drone traffic management system. So we're evaluating how our network coverage is currently geared toward the ground.
Yes.
And so we are looking to see, well, what does it look like up to 400 feet? And then figuring out what it's going to take to optimize that network to provide coverage for drones. We're also working with large enterprise customers so that their drone fleets could fly our network, both providing air traffic management and also data transmission over our network from drones.
Very smart. Do you know if on the towers themselves are like the antennas, I guess, are they more like directional? So are they kind of tilted? Okay, they're tilted towards the ground then.
Correct, down tilt, yes.
Okay, so if you add some more that have like some more level tilt, I mean, some of those cell towers are very, very tall. What altitudes do they go up to sometimes?
The tower industry goes up to just over 2,000 feet.
Wow, okay. So you can have some tall towers. And normally, we're
not normally that high with cellular. At that height, you're talking those are radio towers.
What about cellular?
Cellular is more about 400 feet is the top end.
Still very tall, enough for a drone. Actually, you could fly a drone up to the top of that 2,000-foot tower.
Correct.
If you're within 400 feet of it.
Exactly.
So that's really nice. Thank you, FAA, for that.
Yes.
Did that make you guys very happy?
Yes, that greatly opened up our use case. And the other one is taking away the 500-foot a minimum separation from non-participating people, because that restricted us more toward rural areas with our program.
Yeah.
But when they removed that, and now you can only fly directly over, or not allowed to fly directly over people, so that means we can now fly in a much more populated area.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. That'll expand. Okay, so of all the tens of thousands of cell towers you guys have, is this program rolled out for like pretty much whichever ones you can like legally, effectively monitor and use them? Or are you guys kind of still rolling this out towards like the whole network gradually? How does that work? I mean, what I'm trying to get to here is like, what does the future of drone use look like for a telecom giant like AT&T?
It's going to continue to evolve. So we as we identify a use case, we run it through our approval process. We look at it from many different aspects, from regulatory, from risk, from a lot of different eyes on it. Each scenario, and as each scenario gets approved, then it enters the operational model so that anybody can call up and have that flight flown. But then as new cases come in, then we evaluate those. So we're growing we have about a dozen use cases already currently fully operational, where anyone can call up and have a drone fly any of those cases. But we're continuing to expand those as people come forward saying, I need a specific, I need a drone for a specific use. And as the technology evolves, as the sensors evolve, as the regulatory environment changes.
It's great to see enterprise companies really embracing drones. I think that's really nice. And the fact that you guys just started 2 months ago, like officially like rolled this out, that's perfect timing for this episode, I think, and here at the UAV Expo. Okay, really, really cool. What is AT&T's stance on, do you guys use any like cloud-based data sharing stuff? Because it's always interesting because different companies have different policies. Saudi Aramco, oh no, you are not going to get any cloud infrastructure at all. They have to keep everything very under wraps, et cetera. Do you guys use any cloud-based services for data sharing and stuff like that?
Yes, we're very much in the cloud, and the way we're currently working it with our drone service providers is they put the data into their cloud, and then we bring it into our cloud.
It makes it a lot easier, I think.
Absolutely.
Anyone in the company, from field service pros up to CEO, whatnot, could have a look at the data, and just so much easier to transfer. Lugging around a hard drive or sending a USB stick or an SD card is just so antiquated. So,
and these files are huge.
They are huge, yeah. So it makes it makes it easy once it's all in the cloud to access and everything. But yeah, getting it in there can sometimes be difficult. But if you have a really nice internet connection when you're sitting right next to the cell tower, that's a perfect time to upload all that data. That's cool. So
it's all coming together.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's just a great little access point. It's a great place to operate a drone. So yeah, any cool like lessons learned when you guys started using drones in cell towers? Like, is there like a bunch of interference up there that ever like interferes with the connection on the drone?
We thought there would be, but we haven't seen that. If you put a drone directly in front of a hot microwave, depending on the drone.
Oh, crazy! Those things are pretty powerful.
Yeah, you probably don't want to do that. But for the most part, they're not really affected by the RF.
And so, depending on, I'm imagining that some of your third-party operators, your contractors, might be using like optical zoom technology to like get really close views of the tower. Is there like any type of buffer zone that you guys try to keep like the drone, from getting really close to where like an optical zoom on a camera would really help out? Or do you know any?
We allow that our drone, each of the drone service providers determines what it's going to take to do. We say, for example, we want to be able to read a barcode, we want to be able to read a serial number.
Perfect.
And then they figure out how they're going to do that.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's awesome. Cool, Art. So any other plans, anything specific you're going to be checking out at the show while you're here for the rest of the time, or just kind of browsing?
I'm browsing. Yeah, I've noticed some very large drones out there that intrigue me, particularly with some of our heavier payload that we're looking at. And of course, we're definitely over 55 pounds at that point, so we're talking about waivers and future regulatory provisions. But yeah, I see some possible uses there.
Do you know Corona sensors?
I do not.
Okay, I think those are more used in like power transmission lines. I'm just trying to think. What other kind of sensors? I don't know. Would you be employing? Like, are we talking visual stuff or more like measuring frequencies and all kinds of?
Well, visual stuff as well. We're looking at potentially X-rays, on the steel from a drone. Right now we're using a combination of lidar and photographs to determine the thickness of steel. But just a lot of different use cases out there.
That is cool. So the structural integrity, the integrity of the actual telecom system. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you guys are doing to make that better and improve that process, and not to mention the lives that hopefully won't be as at risk by climbing up on something that could be up to 400 feet tall.
Absolutely.
So that's really cool. Yeah, the more I dig, the more cool, interesting things I find out from you, Art. So this has been great. I hope to. I'll be watching what you guys are doing in the media and see how far you're taking this. I'm really interested, and next time that I'm inside a stadium and I get a really nice cell signal, I'm gonna think of you guys and probably maybe attribute that to the use of a drone there. So cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Art. It was a pleasure, and it was really nice to learn more about drones and cell tower inspections.
Oh, thank you.
So if you guys are interested, you can go ahead and follow the podcast on Twitter @DronesPodcast, or hit us up on Facebook.com/DronesPodcast. And if you want to, you can go ahead and subscribe on iTunes or Google Play or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. We're even on iHeartRadio if anyone listens to that. So we'll be there, and we'll just keep on coming out with some good content, and stay tuned for more episodes of Commercial Drones FM. Art and I are officially signing off. Take care, everyone. Cheers. All right, so that's a wrap. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. One thing you can do to support the show is to visit our new Patreon page and consider donating some change at patreon.com/dronespodcast. So go ahead and donate $1 if you're feeling it. I will be forever grateful. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/dronespodcast. Over and out.